Vice President Maybelline was making the rounds, attempting to defend his boss and the chairman of the FCC with a new fairy tale even a 5-year-old wouldn't believe.
Celebrities are rallying to his cause, saying this is a First Amendment assault being carried out by the FCC, Brendan Carr, and by the President of the United States himself. And to that, you say?
Well, there are two things. First of all, I'd like them to tell me exactly what Brendan Carr did to have Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air, because number one, he is currently on the air, and to the extent that he isn't in certain stations, it's because he's not funny and because his ratings aren't very good.
I have some good news for you, J-Dog. We're back on all the stations.
J.D. Vance spent days huffing and puffing after Jimmy Kimmel torched him on live TV. Again, because nothing gets under a politician's skin like jokes that also happen to be true. And Kimmel didn't just make fun of his haircut. He walked viewers through the actual record, the hoaxes Vance amplified, the sycophancy he perfected, and the whiplash-inducing reinvention from Trump skeptic with a thesaurus to Trump's most eager hype man. If you've been watching this saga unfold in real time, you know why Vance was fuming. If you're just tuning in, buckle up.
A lot of pressure on J.D. Vance tonight. J.D. Vance hasn't been under a microscope like this since his wife asked him why the couch was so sticky. But Trump had good advice. He told him, just have fun, and you know what? It seems like he did.
I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are.
That's how you get the single cat ladies back on your side. You know,
Let's start in Springfield, Ohio, where J.D. Vance boosted one of the most reckless, debunked rumors of the cycle, the claim that Haitian migrants were killing and eating people's pets. Not a neighbor's cousin heard something behind a shed, reckless. Full-on social media telephone game reckless. Local officials, reporters on the ground, and yes, the people of Springfield themselves knocked it down. But Vance kept megaphoning it because, in the attention economy, panic sells.
Vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance is now pushing a bizarre conspiracy theory that is taking the right by storm. Tonight, CNN's Tom Foreman has fact-checked this claim about Haitian immigrants abducting and eating pets in Springfield, Ohio. Tom?
Trump's own running mate, J.D. Vance, is the main source of this nonsense. He's been talking about this in speeches. He's been posting about this as much as he can. The city of Springfield, in his state, Ohio, says there have been no credible reports of Haitians eating pets. But J.D. Vance, who wants to be vice president of the United States, keeps bringing it up.
When CNN asked Vance's office why he is pushing such a blatant lie, they said Senator Vance has received a high volume of calls and emails over the past several weeks from concerned citizens in Springfield. His tweet is based on what he is hearing from them.
Oh, he's getting calls. I didn't know he was getting calls. Now it makes sense. I guess all you have to do to get J.D. Vance to start spreading crazy things around is make calls.
Kimmel took the rumor apart in a monologue that did what good satire does. He showed the receipts, explained how the lie traveled, and then roasted the guy who carried the torch as if he'd solved the Lindbergh kidnapping. Kimmel's line, paraphrased, "You don't get to set your backyard on fire and then run around screaming about the heat." If you saw that segment, tell me in the comments, do you think Vance was misled and sloppy, or was he deliberately feeding a fire for clicks and clout?
First of all, Kimmel was taken off the air because he had low ratings, because the late night talk show host model was not doing particularly well, and let's be honest, because he had become so politically unhinged that I think he wasn't particularly funny. Now, the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, put out a couple of tweets, but the government took no action. We did literally nothing to try to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. We believe in free speech. We also believe in the right of a television station or a network to cancel somebody because of low ratings. And I think it's a little bit rich. The second point I make, Rashad, is it's a little bit rich for people to say that somehow we're engaged in censorship when literally every day, including yesterday, we found out that Google and YouTube were censoring information at the height of COVID at the direction of the Biden administration. So if we're looking for real sources of the government driving censorship, we should be looking at the policies of the Biden administration. We absolutely reject censorship in the Trump administration. We don't want to prevent anybody from speaking their mind, but if a TV station wants to cancel a guy because he's not funny, that's their business.
I'm genuinely curious how you read it, because the pattern matters. And that pattern stretches back years. Remember when JD Vance built his brand telling the world, in painstaking detail, what was wrong with Trumpism? He went on record calling Trump cultural heroin, a toxin that makes you feel good while it eats you alive. That was the bestseller era, the book tour era, the serious conservative thinker era. Then, almost overnight, poof, came the pivot.
And so one of the takeaways is not just that the Republican Party base is somehow fundamentally flawed in a way that's unique in American political history, it's that Trump is a really bad candidate and frankly, I think a really bad person.
Said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroin, noxious and reprehensible.
Look, I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
I didn't know you meant that, Donald Trump.
Out went the critique, in came the cap, and suddenly Vance was on TV explaining why the very guy he'd trashed was the indispensable man. Kimmel has feasted on that flip-flop like it's Thanksgiving leftovers. He doesn't need to stretch for punchlines. He just plays old clips of Vance whacking Trump, then new clips of Vance worshiping Trump, and lets the audience do the math. Comedy tip: when your greatest hits reel debunks your current talking points, you don't have a messaging problem, you have a credibility problem.
I mean to interrupt your bullshit. Go on.
There's something else that's important here, Laura, which is that these broadcast companies, ABC, NBC, CBS, they enjoy the public airwaves because they serve the public interest. So I actually think that we should be having a conversation about whether these companies are serving the public interest. That's actually totally separate from the Jimmy Kimmel issue because nothing happened to him. He's currently on the air, and to the extent that he's not, it's because advertisers don't like him because his ratings aren't very good.
My ratings aren't very good. Last time I checked, your ratings were somewhere between a hair in your salad and chlamydia. In 3.5 years, I'm not the one who's going to be doing mascara tutorials on YouTube. How did we wind up with a president and a vice president who wear more makeup than Kylie Jenner and Lady Gaga combined?
That credibility problem also shows up in Vance's favorite culture war riffs. You've heard the childless cat ladies line, the idea that America is run by people who don't have kids and thus don't care about the future. Leave aside that policies like healthcare, child tax credits, and paid leave are, you know, about kids. Kimmel sliced through the sneer by pointing out the obvious. The country isn't a mommy blog, it's a constitutional democracy, and your contribution to civic life isn't measured in birth certificates.
Tylenol. It's been overwhelming. I've heard from a lot of people over the last 6 days. I've heard from all the people in the world over the last 6 days. Everyone I have ever met has reached out 10 or 11 times. Weird characters from my past are the guy who fired me from my first radio job in Seattle, where we are not airing tonight, by the way. Sorry, Seattle. His name is Larry. In 1989, Larry tried to force me to do a bit called Jokes for Donuts, where people would call in with a joke and I would give them donuts. I refused to do it, and then I made a lot of fun of Larry for suggesting it, and eventually Larry fired me, and I had to move back in with my parents. But even he wrote in to cheer me up. Thank you, Larry, and I want to thank everyone who checked in.
Kimmel, quick, cutting, and rooted in a value conservatives use to claim as their own: personal responsibility. If your policies can't stand on their own, changing the subject to someone's family status isn't traditional, it's just lazy. Then there's the Trump worship. Kimmel loves a good hypocrisy montage, and JD gives him raw material daily. You probably remember the Trump endorsement gaffe, JD Mandel, where even the big boss couldn't keep his new protege's name straight.
There is some silver lining to the shutdown. According to their official website, during the shutdown, our friends at the FCC will cease their response to consumer complaint and inquiry phone lines, which I'm not a lawyer, but I think means we can now say whatever we want on TV, right?
How long you worked here?
A year.
Okay. Donut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which donut, though?
Just whatever makes sense. No pickles. Hold the pickles.
Oh, well, no, I can get that for you.
For most people, getting misnamed by your hero might be a red flag. For JD, it was a branding opportunity. Kimmel laughed because the joke wrote itself. Who trades their dignity for a shout-out, then smiles when they don't even get the shout-out? And after that, every time Vance rushed to defend another Trump faceplant, teleprompter mishaps, conspiracy spasms, threats against companies, it was like late-night Mad Libs. Insert lie here, insert outrage there, hit play.
I would say all week to list all of them, but some that I do especially want to mention are my fellow late-night talk show hosts, my friend Stephen Colbert, who's found himself in this predicament. My friends Jon Stewart, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, John Oliver, Conan O'Brien, James Corden, Arsenio, Kathy, Wanda, Chelsea, even Jay reached out. Sometimes I wonder in what world is the vice president of the United States calling into a giant tooth podcast host to badmouth me and the people who watch this show.
There are these judges. Judge Boasberg comes to mind. Lots of judges who are trying to basically say the president can't exercise the powers of the presidency.
What really sent Vance into orbit recently, though, was Kimmel dismantling the talking point that Kimmel's own show was benched for bad ratings. That spin collapsed faster than a folding chair. The preemption saga was about pressure, a very public brush with government-backed censorship, and when Kimmel came roaring back, the audience followed. He did monster numbers on TV and online, and he did it by saying the quiet part out loud.
There's a tradition of meddling where they shouldn't under many administrations, but it wasn't always like this. There was an FCC commissioner back in 2022 who worked under Joe Biden who was spot on. He wrote, President Biden is right. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship. You know who wrote that? FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Stephen off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous.
The brilliance of Kimmel's roast lies in how he treats both.
In America, the government doesn't get to decide which jokes air. Vance tried to reframe that as a marketplace decision, but the marketplace answered in real time. The more he shouted, "Nobody's watching," the more people tuned in to see the guy he told them not to watch. Honestly, that's a plot twist Shakespeare would have cut for being too on the nose. Layered into all this is the Springfield episode's ugly cousin, the migrant as boogeyman trope. Kimmel made a point I wish more anchors would hammer daily.
They call me creepy, cringy, awkward, that I give people something called the ick. They want you to think that I can't order a simple donut.
Was appointed chairman of the FCC by this former crusader for free speech.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down.
That was also in 2022, and I wonder, how did that guy turn into this guy?
Who would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
A lot of people, anybody could replace him. The guy had no talent. Kimmel look, he was fired, he had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent, and more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get rid.
If you're going to accuse a vulnerable community of monstrous behavior, you need evidence, not vibes, not viral clips, not someone told me. Kimmel pulled up local statements, fact checks, and straightforward reporting. He did what satire at its best often does better than straight news. He stripped away the drama and held the claim up to the light. If you saw that and thought, wow, Kimmel's doing journalism 101, you're not wrong. We shouldn't need a comedian to teach basic verification, but here we are.
I need to talk to the chairman of the FCC.
You don't need to know my name, and I am the new chairman of the FCC.
You were appointed FCC chairman by Donald Trump?
Sir Trump, yes. I used to do this work for the man here and there in Atlantic City.
But did I just hear you on the phone threatening Whoopi Goldberg?
No, I would never threaten Miss Goldstein. I was just teaching her a lesson about consequences.
No, well, but pardon me for saying so, maybe you're the wrong guy to talk to, but it seems like the FCC is using mob tactics to suppress free speech.
What the did you just say?
My mother.
We are definitely not driving back to the brunt of the effect of the shutdown, it will be felt right here in New York. To punish you for disliking him, Trump is putting $18 billion worth of New York City infrastructure projects, like the new rail tunnels under the Hudson and the Second Avenue subway project, on hold to make sure the money isn't being used to support DEI. Apparently, they think trans stands for transportation over there, and they want to stop it. This is clearly an abuse of power to punish the city. And New York City infrastructure projects are not supposed to be delayed because Trump wants to strong-arm Democrats into cutting health care. They're supposed to be delayed because they're New York City infrastructure projects.
Sound off below. Do you think late night has become one of the few places where misinformation actually gets unpacked in plain language? Vance's response to all this? The familiar two-step, pretend the critique is about tone, or being mean to conservatives, then double down on the very behavior that sparked the critique. When Kimmel highlighted the Springfield hoax, Vance cried media bias. When Kimmel replayed Vance's own words about Trump from years past, Vance insisted he'd always believed what he's saying now.
I mean, seriously, if that guy walked into your office and told you he was there to start making cuts.
I have friends who met a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, who met the best man at their wedding at Turning Points USA because it was an organization of patriots dedicated to making this country the very best country that it could be.
I don't agree with many of those people on most subjects. Some of the things they say even make me want to throw up. It takes courage for them to speak out against this administration, and they did, and they deserve credit for it, and thanks. For telling their followers that our government cannot be allowed to control what we do and do not say on television, and that we have to stand up to it. I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight, and the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions.
It's like trying to win a spelling bee by arguing the dictionary is woke. Meanwhile, Kimmel kept doing something politicians hate, quoting them accurately. There's a reason politicians fear clips more than insults. Insults fade, clips stick. There's a larger story too about the entertainment politics feedback loop. Kimmel's monologues aren't just yucks, they're civics lessons with timing and a band. When he says this is documented on public, trusted domains, he means it.
In some ways, you can't help but you kind of feel sympathy for J.D. Vance having to defend Donald Trump, who he himself openly denounced. It's kind of like being Diddy's defense attorney, you know? And I also have to say, I was a little bit worried about Tim Walz going into the debate. You know, I got an email from his wife today asking me for money. I hope they're okay. Here are the Walzes arriving in New York this morning. You can see he's extra fired up because he got a free ramekin of Chex Mix on the plane. It is nice to have a candidate who doesn't make you nervous walking down the stairs from the airplane.
He points viewers to local reporting, official statements, and credible coverage. That matters because one party's entire strategy right now is to muddy the water so much that people give up. Who can say what's true? Everything's spin. No, some things are true, some are lies, and some are lazy distortions meant to cash in on your exhaustion. Kimmel's brand is to expose the last two while getting a laugh on the way. If you value that, hit like and subscribe. And tell me below, what's one claim you saw online this month that got debunked when you clicked through to real reporting? Sharing those helps more than you think.
Tim just said something that I agree with. I agree, and I actually think I agree with you. I actually agree with Tim Walz. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said. Governor, I agree with you. I agree with that. And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agreed.
Well, Trump is not going to like that at all. You're in a lot of trouble, JD.
When a late night host can roll a tape that contradicts your latest speech, you don't have a comedy problem, you have a character problem. And every time Vance lashes out instead of owning up, he confirms the portrait Kimmel's painted. A politician who will say anything, amplify anything, and smear anyone if it keeps the cameras pointed his way. That may be a strategy for 15 minutes. It is not a plan for a country. If you want more breakdowns like this, fact-based, receipts ready, with a little edge, tap subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Smash that like button if you value shows that do their homework. And keep the conversation going below. Was there a moment in Kimmel's Vance segments that hit you harder than the rest? The Springfield debunk, the flip-flop montage, the ratings myth getting crushed by reality? Different answers are great. That's how we avoid a comment section of clones. Thanks for watching, thanks for caring, and thanks for being part of a community that still believes facts matter. See you in the next one.